All right, so the first entrepreneur you're going to hear from tonight is Jason Massey. He started out here at NC State in the physics program, and after washing out of that program, he ended up in finance, which he said going to simpler math, but the finance guys don't like it when he says that. One of the really interesting things about Jason is that he went out to Silicon Valley after graduating and did venture capital. So he was out in Silicon Valley doing venture capital with some of the biggest startups in the world, and now he's come back here to start his own company. So I think he's got an awesome story.
Yeah, as Dave was saying, my NC State career was not very linear. I did 3 years here and then dropped out and moved up to New York and became a stockbroker for a little bit. And I just found out that that type of sales was not my cup of tea. I actually came back to NC State and actually made pretty good grades then. I was thinking about this in the car on the way over here. When I was coming out of NC State for the second time, this was at the height of the internet bubble, and there were actually a lot of incubators starting to pop up, but they were student-run incubators. There was one at Duke called StartEmUp.com. I was thinking about doing one at NC State, and the thing that changed my life was I read a book called The Monk and the Riddle, and I tracked the author down. I asked him about these startup incubators and should I do one at NC State, and his response was, any kid without a clue can make money in the internet bubble, go get some experience. And so I was very fortunate to come out of NC State for the second time, go back to New York and get into venture capital kind of as the internet bubble was cresting and peaking. I was able to take the transition from New York out to Silicon Valley and moved out to Menlo Park near Stanford University and spent 7 years out there. It was kind of weird. I didn't meet Tom Miller and the entrepreneurship team at NC State until I lived out in Silicon Valley. So I got to meet them the first time when they were bringing students out to Silicon Valley to do a tour. And so we started that relationship, 10 years ago. So you guys have got awesome resources here on campus to do that. When I got into venture capital, I was 23 years old. Thought I knew everything on finance and startups and everything. And when I got to Silicon Valley, I quickly realized I didn't know anything. And some of the most successful entrepreneurs, most successful venture capitalists, investors have been guys in the trench. Sweated payrolls, hired, fired people, failed startups, successful startups, all the things that I think are kind of relevant to what Triangle Startup Factory does. It's what we were thinking about doing in the internet bubble of starting student-run incubators, run by students with no real adult supervision or mentors. Now we have that in place in the Triangle. It's taken several years, but the infrastructure is here. So I loved venture capital so much that I decided I needed to get out of it. I needed to get real good experience if I ever wanted to come back to it and be effective as a venture capitalist. And that started my most recent journey, was jumping out, working with startups. Had 3 failures, 5 decent little successes, and 1 big success. I decided to get some real operational experience at a big company, started working with a company called Kovac Communications. I got laid off of that job and rolled my severance package into my first angel investment, which was a company called Tapulous, which hopefully you guys have all played Tap Tap Revenge on your iPhone. We eventually sold that to Disney. I was able to take that money, move back to North Carolina, because my wife and I wanted to start a family, and use that to cover my salary for a year to go try to do another startup. That startup ultimately kind of imploded, and I started our most recent company is Sustainable Industrial Solutions, SIS. We are down in the underground in that infrastructure, and it's just having that area to bounce ideas off of people, having a kind of common place. Go and talk to Dave down the hall is the closest thing that I've experienced to Silicon Valley out on University Avenue, where you're going in the coffee shops, bouncing ideas off of other people. That's the closest thing I felt to Silicon Valley. I kind of would lead with this. When I've talked to other kind of entrepreneurial programs and students coming out, some of the best advice that I've been given and that I'd give to you guys is set up a lifestyle that allows you to take risk, so that entrepreneurs just don't blindly take risks. They do a good job of mitigating risk. And so if you can set up a lifestyle where you don't have the big fancy car payment as soon as you get out of school, you don't have the big house and mortgage payment, you can do things like work 6 months without a salary and take a chance. So if you can create a lifestyle that allows you to take risk, it will get you on the entrepreneurial trail. So that's what I would leave you guys with. Thanks. Thanks for letting me ramble.